Welcome back. Paul Catalina and Craig Smoke and Olin Buchanan, TexAgs.com. And Olin, it's early in the portal season, obviously. But the Aggies, with Micah Hudson and Julian Humphrey alone, two pretty big check marks off the board, right?
Yeah, especially Micah Hudson. I think the biggest area of concern where they knew they had to get better as receiver, and they're making strides in that regard. Micah Hudson, the five-star guy, y'all know that. And I know he didn't play a lot at Texas Tech, but I think there's a lot of potential there. I think we all know that. And they're not going to be done at trying to get, or at least add to that wide receiver room. And Humphrey, look, they need to be better in the secondary, and they did improve, but that other corner opposite Will Lee, it was inconsistent. And, Humphrey was, I think he started 10 games for Georgia, first year as a starter. So there's no guarantees, but hey, you bring in a guy that on some recruiting services had him a five-star, bring him back to Texas and, plug him in there and see what he does. You're always trying to upgrade your team, and those are two areas that need to upgrade. So you applaud Mike Elko for getting that done.
Olin, with the team heading into the bowl season now, how would you kind of describe just the mood around the program, given what Mike Elko's done in this first year? Obviously, an incredible start as far as the winning streak goes after that Notre Dame loss to open the season, but then a really tough finish, including that loss to Texas, dropping 3 out of your last 4. As they get prepared to play USC, just what's kind of the vibes, I guess you could say, down in College Station right now?
Yeah, I think, it's kind of like macaroni without the cheese, I guess. It's fine. And I think it would, as crazy as it might sound, I think the feeling would be a whole lot different if they just beaten Auburn.
Yeah.
And if you get a 9-win season with a chance to get to 10 wins, I know bowls aren't what they used to be, but you don't have a lot of 10-win seasons at A&M lately. So you would have had that chance, and Auburn's a team, you felt like you were better than them. In fact, you were in position to win the game and let it get away. I think that would have changed a lot. But as it is, it's one of those things where everybody says, if you told me before the beginning of the year that the A&M would finish 8-4 but have a chance to go to the SEC championship game as late as the last game of the year, people would have been really happy with it. But when at one point, you're in November and you're the only team in the SEC without a conference loss, and then you lose your last 3 conference games, it's like having a nice night at the casino and then losing big on your last hands, and you don't walk away with as much as you think you should have. So, it's acceptable. The best way to put it. It was an acceptable first year to go. You improved by a win, maybe 2 if you beat USC, and so that's progress. But certainly would have liked to see more, especially with the situations they were in.
Olin, when it came to that wide receiver position, Noah Thomas obviously was a great, discovery this year for them, a bit of a revelation, but really didn't get anything from anywhere else. What do you think the depth chart looks like? Is it Noah Thomas, Hudson, Bussey? Like, where do you put that right there? Yeah. Is there anybody else I'm leaving out there? Or?
Yeah, they got some other guys that they like. Freshman guy Ashton Bethel-Roman that they're really excited about. Didn't play a lot, but when he the little bit he played, he looked good. They're excited about when they got him, and then they signed a 5-star again for whatever that's worth, wide receiver out of Utah, Jerome Miles. I think he was like the national top 30 player. I think the 5th rated receiver in the entire recruiting class. If you're, again, depending on who you're looking at. They also signed a kid out of a real fast kid out of Hitchcock. I think Johnson, Kalen Johnson, Kelshawn Johnson, and A&M needs more speed, and so they've that's what they've gone after. Even in the transfer portal, they're saying, hey, if you have I won't say who it is. I'll say there's a SEC receiver that was in the portal that was very productive, and I heard right away that they weren't going to pursue him because, quite frankly, he's not as fast as they need. They need speed, and so that's what they went for. And we'll see how it works out. Now Noah had a nice year, but I think Noah would be a really productive receiver if he was like your number 2 or 3 option. I don't think they were hoping to emerge as a number 1, but a number 1 needs to come, get you more than 34 catches. He again, nice year, but not a great year. I mean, he did lead the team in receiving. He averaged 16 yards a catch, had 6 touchdowns. So a really nice year, but you need to put some speed around him and give us some other options. So, again, that's what they've tried to do, and they've gotten some fast guys, and we'll see if that turns into more big plays for them.
What's it like covering Mike Elko for a year compared to Jimbo Fisher?
Transcribing the quotes is a lot easier.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. I like Jimbo, but toward the end, he was just so stubborn, and he refused to acknowledge that what he was doing wasn't working. And I think Mike Elko is just a guy that keeps his mind open, his options open. He realizes that his team had some deficiencies, and quite frankly, we're down here disappointed again as an 8-4 season. Just acceptable, but they might have overachieved, quite frankly, when you look at the again, no speed receiver, and then you lose your best offensive player for the year at South Carolina, and you had to go back and forth with your quarterbacks because the guy you thought was going to have a big year got hurt, but he also struggled. So toward the end of the year, that defensive line that played so well for you in the middle of the year just kind of the production just fell off the. It just plummeted, and you ask yourself why that happened, but it did. But I like dealing with Mike. He's a straightforward guy. He's not going to BS you, and he's he's cooperative. And Jimbo was for the first, I'd say, 5 years, and a lot of times when coaches start getting defensive and feel like they have to remind you everything they had accomplished, that's when it's over, because nobody cares about what you did. They want to know what you're going to do.
So the quarterback position, Connor Wegman out. He's now going to Houston. Jacob Zeno comes in through the transfer portal. So a 2-part question there. Is Zeno just pretty much a depth piece? Is that kind of how he's being viewed, or how do you view that move? And then also, what do you think of the landing spot of Connor Wegman to the Houston Cougars?
Well, I think that's good for Connor. I think it's good. He's from Houston, and I still think he's a talented quarterback that just, for some reason, he got the yips or whatever. And getting a new scenery, I feel like he'll be successful. I think Jacob Zeno was brought in to back up, an experienced backup for Marcel Reed. And they needed one because, quite frankly, A&M haven't had a quarterback get through a season unscathed since 2020. So, I mean, sometimes they've had 4. 2 years ago they played 4 or last year it was 4 different quarterbacks played for A&M because of injuries. So, so they needed an experienced guy. Now, let me tell you this. I feel this way about Mike Elko. I feel strongly about this. If Jacob Zeno gets here and just blows them away, or if Marcel Reed struggles, then no doubt in my mind I'll put the best guy out there. But I think bringing in the idea is, hey, I need Marcel Reed's going to be our guy, and we want a more experienced backup, but other than a guy that just played a few snaps as a freshman, to get that guy more time to develop. So I think Marcel, as of today, the thought is he is going to be the starter moving forward, and Zeno gives you an experienced backup, and that's important considering the way, again, like I said, considering the way the quarterback situation has been here the last 4 years.
Olin, it felt to me watching the Auburn game and the Texas game in particular, South Carolina just kind of got away from them. But Auburn and Texas, there were moments in that game where had Colin Klein maybe felt a little more confident or made maybe like a kind of a bolder call, they could have made a play, but he kind of went to the bread and butter a little bit, like running up the middle when they could have maybe gone outside with Marcel Reed on some of those third and yeah. Do you think that's because he didn't completely trust the experience, or was that also just Colin Klein in that moment, like just not quite there yet as a play caller? Although from what we've seen, mostly he's been pretty dang good.
Yeah, we're all scratching our head on that one, especially that second one against Texas when they had stopped you earlier at the 10-yard line and you got nothing, and you're running virtually the same play. And, on both plays, ran inside, it was the right defensive end crashing in hard that made the tackle. Anybody would have made the tackle on the second one. Your center got pushed 2 yards back. But the guy who made the tackle was the defensive end on the right side crashing in hard. And if you got a fast quarterback, that second one, had you faked it inside, had him carry it, bootleg, you probably would have scored. Let me just say that those calls against Texas were they've been discussed quite a bit, actually. Because, they ran inside twice at their own 34 on fourth down against South Carolina. One time on a quarterback sneak with your 180-pound quarterback. We didn't think that made sense. And they came right back and ran the same play against South Carolina to Amari that they ran against Texas. And, again, it got blown up. So you think, how many times does it have to fail before you say, maybe I ought to try something else? And what's funny is earlier in the game, they had a 3rd and 1. They brought Bussey in motion and handed it to him on a jet sweep, and he converted. So, but when you had to have it the most, and you know what, both of those plays against Texas, I believe, was coming out of a timeout. I know the second one against at the end on the 1 yard line, inside the one, they're coming out of a timeout. You say, well, you had an extra time to make a decision, and that's still what you come up with. So, that's one that will continue to be discussed for a while. It's there's a lot of bewilderment about the play selection there.
Bewilderment is the nicest word you can use, I think, for a lot of fans. I had a text chain going with my uncle and cousin who are not prone to foul language, but they were then. So
I think had they done anything, hell, put a lineman back there. They did that against LSU last year. They put Martin Abu back there, about 320 pounds, and let him run it, and he scored. I mentioned the Terry Bussey. Fake it and throw an alley-oop to he's 6'6". Just about, try the bootleg. And had it failed, okay, Texas is just better than you. But at least try something different. I think that's where a lot of the frustration came from here. There would have been frustration anyway had you done anything and not made it. But, we all know the definition of insanity is try to do same thing and expect different results. And I think everybody was, that just ratcheted up the frustration to ridiculous level.
Yeah, absolutely. Olin Buchanan, TexAgs.com. Olin, thanks a lot. Always great to talk to you.
All right. Enjoyed it, guys. See you.
Olin Buchanan, TexAgs.com. And, and Craig, there's that was one of those things I think until A&M actually beats Texas that will stick in their craw as fans forever. Just the way that game ended.